So what we saw that the strings are nothing but a sequence of characters, kindly like represent as a symbol or has some alphabets having some 26 characters like so. So we saw that these were a kind of a string for us, right? And we just operated some of the things in the string to just check on how we can manipulate on these strings, right? For the replications, concatenations, right? So those were a part of all these. Yes, now let's move ahead with some of the more facts. So yesterday let me revise whatever we did yesterday for the strings. Okay, so we were having some of the variables with some of the values. Let's say x, y, z. Let's say x, y, z to be some different names. Let's take it as. Alright, so we have x, y, z as our three of the terms, right? So let me print all those things. Okay, so what we did is we did the lower method. We understood how lower works. We also did the upper method. Case fold and what do we split? Okay, that should be our split we have done. I think we have done the split. Alright, let's see for the replacement. Z is IBM. Alright, let's see. What more we did? Lower, upper, case fold, replace, right? And applications has been done. Format, I think we did the form. Okay, let's print these first. So this lower is lower, and so does the upper, the case fold, and the replacement, right? So these are clear, I think. Similarly, we also did for the format one. That was just a kind of like this, right? So we did the braces and there we just put on the values. Sorry. All right. Then we saw some of the characters for like the escape character stands for what, the backslash stands for what, or the slash n or like for these things, right? Okay. So we will see some of the more methods now. Yeah, we also saw the capitalize method. All right. So let's say we want x dot or we want z dot capitalize. So that could be probably IBM, right? Now let's see, you have a word, let's say that it is let's say it's computer programming kind of. Okay, now I want to just print it on. I can see alright. I can see this is just a print method, right? But in case if I write it like, let's say 35 or 40, let's say 40. So let's say 40, right? So now when run this, what you can see is one of the printing has been done here, the another printing has been done here. That is around the 40 spaces from the left and from the right. Alright, so let's just print only the center. So now you can see the spaces from there, right? So it has been a kind of a center position. Similarly, you can just check on the size and then you can write it for your own. So let's take it for 100. So it will be just like a center, right? So this particular center will give you the printing inside the center, and then based on the whatever the value you are writing on. Okay. Now let's say that I want to check the number of O, the occurrence of O happening in the world of computer programming. So for the occurrence of those things, what I'll do is I'll be counting the O. So for that, we'll do it says we have 2 O there, right? Similarly, you can just count on. For the E. So we have 2 cross 2, alright. And so that's 2 cross 2 cross 3, and so as the value will be just going at. Okay, so you can just count on any particular thing using the count function. Now sometimes a question comes for the find one, then students get confused, like for the if I write f dot find, and similarly I write p, so that says 3. Now what is 3 exactly? Or if I write, student get confused in this kind there, if the question is written like for pu, alright, put, let's say. So student gets confused. So you can see if I write v dot find of p, and even if I write v dot find of put, so I'm getting the 3. And what exactly is 3 is the nothing but the what we read yesterday, the kind of the index positions, right? So if we zoom on and we'll see, then you can see starting from the 0, it's C, then first one is 1, and then 2 is M, and the P is 3. So you can see that the P value is 3, or you can say the P is having a location of 3. Okay, so index value of 3, right? So when you find anything, it will search for the string for a specified value, and then will return the position of where it has been found. Alright, so that can be only the first one what you are writing. Now let's say that you have written put, right? So only the first index position you will be getting from there. That is your only p value, that's all, right? For these will be similar, right? Moving next, format is like very simple, right? So if a string is kind of a let's say you want to take some input from the user, and that must be in a lowercase. Okay, that must be in the lowercase. So for that, what you'll do, you will just check on something, right? So how you'll check on? Let's say there is a string. And let's say I have written like that. So I have a string and I have named it as lower and the case, right? Now is this the lower case or not? How will I predict it? Or how will I find it? So I'll be writing that is the lower, that's all. So it will return me true if all the characters inside my string are in the lower case. So that is obviously not. And to the contrast, if I like it as and I will be getting the answers as false and the true. So I hope you guys understood it, right? So lowercase will only return if all the characters inside the string are the lower. Similarly, you can check it for decimal, alphanumeric, right? Number or an identifier, right? So how can a string be an identifier, guys? str is now object of identifier. It is working. It says no identifier. Alright, might be spelling mistakes will be done. But so for getting an identifier, right, you guys know, right, what are the identifiers, right? So what an identifier will do, it will return true if the string is a valid. Okay, so it will return if a string is a valid identifier there, right? And otherwise you'll be getting some false values. Let's just take your kind of a name and then check it whether it is an identifier or not. So these are not the keywords too. So, sorry, not a keyword, but still it's an identifier. So if you check whether it is a keyword or not, because identifier can be the names, right? The variable names, anything. But the very first thing we did in the first class, I think, right? That you can check is this not a keyword there. You can write on here, and you can just check on like keyword is keyword or like that, right? So depends. You can just check it on kind of. You'll be getting a false value there, right? So these are not the keywords, but an identifier. What I said in the second class, I think, or the first class we read about the identifiers, that it can be anything, kind of a variable or a name of anything, right? So those can be the identifiers, right? So if I just write it kind of. So those cannot be an identifier. Those you can't assign any kind of a name and all these things, even if these are strings, right? So moving ahead to the next one. Now let's see if you have taken an input from the user. Let's say enter your name, let's say, right? So user might be entering his name, let's say I've written my name. Alright. So now just let's print the user and I'll be getting my name over there. That's quite good. Okay. Now let's think of that. If I want if I want to display the user his name, but although he has written his name in the lower cases, I want to display his name in uh, the you can say for the first letter as the capital, right? So what are the things I'll be doing? First, I'll be converting. Might be the user can also give all things in the capital, right? So that depends. So what I'll doing is I'll be first converting everything in the lowercase, and then I'll be just returning a title to the of you can say for the user, right? So if you just check on these things, so you can see, right, it is uh, just a user input, what user has given, and this is my printing method, right? So this is first made into lower. Might the users can give in the uppercase too, that can be done in there. It can be done like that. So that will not probably affect my printing. Okay, so these are the things which can be just done on, right? So now to check whether something the user is has given is a kind of a lowercase or not. So again you will be using lower. So that will be returning you whether the user input is a lowercase or not lowercase. Okay. So if it is not a lowercase, then definitely it is a uppercase. Not definitely, maybe it can be a toggle case kind of. So you have it a uppercase. So you can check it on and then you can just print on, right? So these are the things to focus on. Similarly, let's say we have a input from the user, and we want him to give the numbers, only the numbers. Right? And that probably be only for 10. Okay, so let's user give anything. So let be 89 digit number, right? So this is a kind of a number right now. Now I will check that whether the user has given the correct inputs inside the input box, right? He might give in place of phone number, he might give his name there, anything there, right? So how will I check on whether the user, or how will I just let him proceed to just write the correct inputs there, right? So you will have to check whether the user is giving a numeric characters or not, right? So for that, what you'll do is you'll just take an input. Okay, take an input from the user, and then you will just check on that whether whatever he has or she has written is a kind of a number or not. So that is numeric. So this will return if all the characters are the numeric, right? So these are the numerics exactly. Now, in case the user have used any of the things inside for the alphabets and all, so that would not be a numeric one. Alright. So these are the things. Similarly, we can also check that if we can also write it as is digit, right? So now this will give returns if all the characters are the digits, right? So all the characters are the digits. So this is the methods of some of the kind of a string you can say, right? Similarly, if anything is in a just a kind of printing, so you'll be checking that whether it is printable or not and all that, right? So if let's say a string, let's say a string, this string is having a white space or not, how will check that? You'll just write that is space. So these are the to be focused on. Let's say you are taking a user input and you want his first name, last name, and everything would having a proper space in between, right? And let's take the user. Let's run this again. Let's say the user has just not given any spaces and just run his program. Let's say he just went off and written there. Or let's say he's writing his Instagram account. Okay, you are just taking an input from an Instagram account. Okay, let's just make a program for that. You will get to know how it runs. Let's say user come and just write his there. It is username. Yeah. Uh, Password can have space. I not even not correct there. Okay, so it's a kind of space. You can see now what I'm doing. Alright, so there it is. Let's run this. So it's asking for my username. So let's give any kind. I'm giving my own. I hope that this is this one. Alright. So it's asking for the password. So let be anything. So that's correct, right? So these are kind of things. The password is not correct, right? The username is correct. Okay. And now let's see what happens if I give a space there. Let's say so. Might be some problem there. Username is a space. Why did not give me anything? Okay, use. Let's make use of this. Those spaces would not work here, I think. Greater than 0, 0. Let's see again. Alright, that's fine. So the see what spaces will do. Kind of left if I have a string and that is completely done with these spaces, right? That is completely just done up with these spaces. Let's say I'm having a string. Let's say and just there are spaces on that, and just will look on that. So that's a kind of a true thing, right? These are the things. What I did here is I just took the username and then entered the username and then I counted that is there any gaps over there. So if the gaps is greater than 0, if the gaps counting is greater than 0, so print that ID is not found, because Instagram has no ID gaps, right? So when you go to Instagram account, when you make it there, so there is no can we use elif, you can make you elif there. Okay, why the outcome comes in the tuple format, in the table format. Okay, you are asking for these. These are inbuilt. You will be getting inside. It's you can't just say for a tuple format. It's a kind of a just you represent it as a tuple because kind of you can see it's a kind, but not exactly. It's a kind of just tuple there, right? So these cannot be represented in the list or set in any kind, right? So those did not comes inside the list because it's a kind of a predefined inbuilt methods, right? So in username, I counted that whether is there any particular thing greater than the any particular space is greater than the 0. So if it would have been there, so I would have got that an invalid output or invalid or ID over there, right? Similarly, let's say that we don't give any of these spaces now. Let's don't give any spaces and let's go for the password. So let's say I have written password like that. So again there is an error. The password. Alright, that would be a password there. So that could be an error. Okay, so I think you have understood how the just a count method. These are the methods which you can use in various kind of things to do on. Okay, so just a giving of a glance to you. Okay, so moving ahead. So similarly, you have 1 second. Yeah. Similarly, you have things to just go on for the strip. So strip method or the title we have done. Let's say a user is giving the first word capital or not. For that, you will be checking on the title, right? So that could be let's say username dot title. So if I do so, I'll be getting none type. Is the username empty? Alright, then let's assign something here. Let's say there is a word called as school, right? And now I want to check whether this is a kind of a title or not. So similarly, you have all these same methods. For checking anything, just put on is first and then write the word. That is not a title, right? So these are the things to just have a look on it, right? And let's say when the companies or when the organizations take as input and anyone enters a float value, right? Anyone enters just a year, so you have an ask an year to input, let's say YR, and the input you are giving there as a kind of enter your age, let's say, right? It has been asking for enter your age, and just like you are giving it kind of let's say 67.8, right? So if I check your year, so companies might not need the values inside the 67.8. Okay, that might not need the 67.8. It could be better if it is 67 or if it is 68, right? So what it will do is it have two kind of things. So many kind of process there are to work on. So the very simple thing is that it can take the input in the integer. So to avoid the point values, validate it with the base 10. Sorry, you can take it in a float, then you can make it in the integer. So this you can do, you can just take 67.8, and then if you check your YR, it would be only 67. So you take the input in the float and then you can just convert it into the integer. So this can be a first step. Instead of that, what else you can do, let's take entering age, right? So those can also be done as kind of an input, enter age, right? So the user will the user can give the string value, and we know that we can't just make any string to the integers and all, right? By just we can take it from the input one, but not manually. So what we'll do that we'll check for the decimal, right? So let's just take it as kind of a thing, right? So let's take an input and let's write 56.8 and just check it on at age. So it says false. Yeah, very good. Then let's write that still running wrong. Very good. Now Python documentation. So it will return if everything there is a kind of a decimal, all right. Space title decimal, yes. If the string is a kind of a decimal string, right? Otherwise false. So not running. All right. So it will return if the all characters of there are a kind of a strings, right? So this can work there. If every character is there, you are getting is a kind of a string. Someone gave, I think. So these are the methods you will be using in the string there. In the elif, it's password dot count, right? Yeah, it's password dot count. That was an error. So these are the methods and everything. You can just go up with the strings one, right? So I have given an assignment based on the string too. So you can just work on the strings with or more. Similarly, we also saw the swap case. Just hold on for a minute. We also did the swap case. In the swap case, what happened? Let's say you're having a word. Let's say let it be answer, right? Let it be answer, and let it be anything capital. Let it be A or S capital or main R capital, right? So as you can see from the word, if you write the swap case there, so that will just make your cases swap. That is your capital will be the lower will be the upper, and like that. Similarly, let's take another word. Let's take the machine, right? So now I just want to see whether this machine, right? This machine, if I just go on and I just go with the, you can say, partition. Yeah, let's take one argument. So you can see there what has been happened. If I write machine dot partition and then the A, so this exactly will give you the tuple, a kind of tuple. Will let it read what is tuple there. So this will return you a tuple, which there the string is parted into three kind of parts, right? So if you want A, so it will be parted out from the M, A, and then it will come. Let's say you want from the C, so it will be right M, A, C, N, H, I, E, N. So what will happen? Whatever the word you will be writing on, it will just split there. The middle will be in the middle one. Whatever the word you write, it gets splitted alone with that, and then before words will be taken as a left word, and after these word, after the words after this particular word will be taken as the right words. So it will be parted into only three kind of parts, right? So if you take it as M A C. So you can see that before MAC is nothing, so it's kind of only just a normal string, right? So Mac and then hin. So if you write machine, so you can see only the machine word and with the two spaces. So these are a kind of questions you'll be asked anytime. You will be getting an output like this, and you will be asked how to generate this output using the string methods, and you will be given some time of seconds, so you can answer those. Okay, so you should know how these thing works on, right? Similarly, if you just write it as machine, which it be the same. Similar work will be also done if I write it in the let's say Mac. So similar work will be done there too, right? There what happens, there are partition, and the partition, if you see on the help of the str for the definitions, you will be seeing that the partition, yeah. So partition the string into three parts with the separator you will be giving on, right? Similarly, the R partition would be also there. Yeah, it also parts the string into three parts using the given operator, right? and you get three tuples, kind of three values in the tuple, and then you can just go on with the uh, you can say for indexing, right? So that can also be a kind of indexing purpose you can use for. Right? So these are the parts, and also the split we have used. Like what the split does actually, it's splits the value of a kind of a thing for the. Let's say I'm having a string input. Let's say user is giving HTTPS www dot. Let's say it's google.com. Right. Let's say it's google.com. So you want to split now. Now see, you have two dots there, right? And you want to split it down. So what you'll do is, if you write it as a dot, so when you see that, what happens? The splitting has been done, but what happens is that HTTPS and these things, www, has been kept aside. One dot find out, and the things have been separated off. These two has been separated off. Okay, one is there and one is there now. Now again in between these things, again one dot has been find off. So again these two has been separated off. Right. So this is how the separation could work, right? So similarly, you can just separate it on the basis of, let's say, let's say it's a kind of list, and you want to just okay, let's go and see. Let's just split this in the. So now what you can see is the website name is this particular thing, and the security purpose it's using is HTTPS. Okay, these are the things you can just find out with any of the methods, right? There are a lot of methods to work, and you can just come up with any of the things. Okay, so yes. Now let's just say that you are having string and 100% if you print, like kind of a new line would come if you just print it with these things. New line will come, right? So what in case if I write here just take this splitness. Splitness would work or not. Splitness, split. So splitness is just str of an object. Or we can use the split lines too. So there are some features in the Python 2, which is not Python 3, which is not working in still. It has been transferred to the Python 2. Okay, you can see the new line has been split lines. So particularly if your string contains some lines, you can just split on those things to some kind of list, right? So let's just say that you have some lines now. Let's just say that you have some lines, kind of a copyright at the data. Let's say right. So copyrighted data, let's say google.co.in. This is just a kind of first line, and then similarly I'm just taking again copyright. It's just a static line, right? So these are just a kind of a string, just a kind of a sentence is this, right? If I print it, it will look like that, right? Exactly. So these are the two lines now. Now I want just to make these things inside kind of a list. The user has given two sentences. I want this to be a kind of a, you can say, two statements in some different lists. So what I'll do is just I'll be using here dot split the lines. That's all. So your lines would be split it on, right? And many things you can just go on with all these, right? So you can split lines and then you can before splitting lines. Okay, once your lines has been split on, you can now check it that you have these things, right? You have these of the uh, let's make it in a kind of a variable first. Just paste it here. Okay, let's say this is a kind of an x and these are the value of the x, right? What more you can do? You can split. Now if you split on the basis of so if you split on the basis of this, you can find probably that you are having the words as a blank space, that its copyright has been split, right? So if you just split on the basis of dot, that would be more interesting. So you can see now copyright at the rate google.co and this in copyright at the rate microsoft.co and in ss, right? So there are a lot of things to just explore on the kind of, so there are a lot of manipulation you can do with this string one, right? So a lot of questions can come, a lot of techniques can be generated from using this string, right? So any questions might you get from any kind of place, you have an options to just solve it with the kind of a strings, right? So there are a lot of assignments I've given you to just work on with the strings one. More probably a lot of things are there to just let me give you some of the questions you can solve. uh, 1 second. So there could be in these strings, it could be right. The if a random number is generated, so how to calculate the sum of three digits of a random three-digit number, right? So it could be a kind of question. Let's say what I will do is I'll be importing random. You can directly write import random. That's no need to think of that. Now let's say to make a number a three-digit random number, I'm not giving any kind of range. What I'll do is I will just take random, right? I'll take my random and then what I'll do is I'll multiply it by 900 and plus 100. That's all. So single digit random numbers will be multiplied by 900 and then with the 101. That's it. Fine. So this is my three-digit random number, and then I'll sorry. Then I'll just take as an input of that is an integer of n. Make it a integer, and then you can just check on the n value. Similarly, I'll be taking it as an integer, and now my integer of any number what I have taken. Let's just do one thing before. Let's just take s and make it as a str of n. Okay, so s is now the string of the n I'm having. So I say a to be the integer of s of 0. Similarly, I say the b and the c2 to be the integer of the 1, to be the integer of the 2. Okay, so s to be the 0, s to be the 1, s to be the 2. These are the three of the ABC values. and after that I will be again printing on the A plus B plus C. And if you just want to plot, just make you see what are these things. B25 yes. So that could be A, B, C, and there is a, well, that's all. What is happening there? It is just printing that A plus B plus C will be equals to your values of A plus B plus C. When I run this, I can see a random number generated at the kind of 594. Alright, and then just I'm adding up the individual sum of these things. That is a 5 plus 9 plus 4. Alright, so this can also be done with the use of the for loop, right? You can just use your techniques to find out the things, right? So there are a lot of techniques, as I said. You can just go on with any of the things to work with the strings, and a lot of there are, right? So you can select any integer from the string. If a user is giving any integer, so you can just select any integer from the string. If you are getting any input from
could you please repeat this program?
Sorry?
Could you please repeat this program?
Yeah, sure. See, what I did is the calculation of a 3-digit, just a random 3-digit number, and then I just let me write with the line numbers. See, in the first line, I just imported the random, and then I took the random there. So okay, so if I write it kind of a random there, like only like this. So this will be a random number, any random number exactly, right? Any random number. What I did is I just multiplied it with the 900. So now I'm getting some 3-digit random numbers, right? You can see 3-digit random numbers, and then I just added up there 100. So now again it's a kind of just a random 3-digit number, right? So these are now. What in the next step I have taken is a kind of an integer. So whatever this is, I just take it all as a integer. So now that can be an integer every time. You can see, right? So that will be an integer for now, but some values would be maybe repeated out there, right? So this is a random integer value now. So I just printed out that my random integer value was 594. Now I took the s, that is my variable, and I converted this in, this is my this particular thing, to the str, because in integer we can't do indexing, right? In the integer it is not possible to just write on a integer of 1 or integer of 2. It is not possible to do indexing in the integers there. So what we'll do, we'll just use the str of that. So after the conversion in the integer, we'll be using its str value, that is, let's say 569 has came, right? So now what to do with these things? So I'm saying that let's say this is my x, let's say this is my y. So my y is my y is 511 now. Okay, so what I'm doing is now if I want, I can easily access the things, right? I can easily access one by one the values, one by one the index values. I can just go on for checking what is the s of 5, what is the s of 0, or what is the, sorry, what is the y of 0, what are the y of 1, or what are the y of 2. So those are nothing but the 511, right? So what if I need to add them? I can just add them with the index values. I need their integer values to add on, right? So what I'll do is I'll just convert these things to be an integer of those, right? So I just took some of the words. Let's say I just want to get it add up, so I'll be writing it as integer of s of 0. plus the integer of s of 2. And you can see now the addition 5 plus 1, that is your 6 plus 1, 7. So what is the, it's 5 plus 1, 6 plus 1, 7. How it did, oh, sorry, these are the y. That is 7 there, right? So this is the particular thing I have done. So understood or not?
Yes, I got it.
Alright. So these are just the techniques, these are just the methods we have in the uh, string, right? So you can do a lot of questions with this thing. Let's see, just I gave a question to you. Let's just take it outside. So yesterday I said that if you want to just compare strings, so on what basis you will be comparing? Yes. What is the basis on which you will be comparing the strings there? Anyone?
By using ASCII values.
ASCII values. Alright, correct. So let's say if I want to, okay, I didn't say you about the index one also. See, so those were the positions. I can get any positions for any particular value for finding also. So let's say you have a word, let's say it's AI, and you want the index value of I. So that is probably the one particular. Okay, so getting the index value could be the one. So now I'm just giving you some sort of questions which you can work with your string. Okay, so just create another particular file for a string one. Let's go to the Python assignments. I have one for the string operations, but that's not much for you. That is kind of a slicing. Just you have to stride out the values, the upper ones and these things, right? These are much not well. So have you guys completed the assignment one? I might think you might have done that. Alright, so just write some of the questions. I'll be giving you some around 30-40 questions there to of the strings, not much. Okay, so just let's write to and let's understand what all things we will be getting, and these are the important things you should just have a knowledge of those things. Now let's say my first question would be, so this is my first question. How would you confirm that two strings have same identity? Yes, answer. How would you confirm that two strings have the same identity? Hmm. Anyone there? All right. No worry. So I'll be writing on the white. So we know that the we have read right that the is operator returns true. The if operator, the is operator returns true when if two names or variables, if two names point same location. If these two of the variables are just pointing on the same location in the memory, as I said in the, I think we have discussed these things. So if these are in the just a memory same location, that is what we referring to about the identity. Exactly. Okay. So this can be done using your is or equals to. You can just check on for that. Don't confuse with all these. So if I want to write a code for it, what will there? Now let's say language is equals to just having a list of languages there. Let's say it's Python. Let's say it's R, it's Ruby, Swift, so on. We have some languages. Okay, we have another language. But in the another language is equals to the my language. Alright. So another language is equals to my previous. Okay, this is, or you can say as initial language. This is equals to my initial language, right? So see, these are the things, right? Now if I write if I just print on that my initial language is equals to my another language, that will be giving you a true result, right? Similarly, if I write that is my initial language is the another language, that will also give you the true result. So you can check with both of these methods. Now let's take even more language. So let's take even more language and let these be C, C++, C minus minus, C sharp. Okay, let it be even more languages now. Now if I say, comparing what I'm saying to, if I say that my initial language is equals to even more language, that will return you false. Understood, right? So these are the things. Or if I write to my initial language is the even more language, that would return you false. But let's take one particular value. Let's say in case, let's just think of, in case, let's take final language. Let's just take it as a kind of final language. And this final language is there. Let's say it's kind of R, it's kind of Scala, and it will be Python. Alright, so these are there. Again, I just take it on there. Let's copy it, paste it there. So I've taken much of these values now. Now I will checking initial language with my final language. So that will give me a true result. If I check with this final language, that might not be giving me a true result. That will 100% give me still the false results. So what I'm doing here is, see, we have the variables, we are checking the ifs and how, right? So if I print it, we will see the different identity. So for checking the identity, guys, what are the things, right? So you'll be using the functions now to just check on for those. So the is will automatically returns the memory address. Okay, if it is there, so it will return the memory address. Let's see what comes the output. So it is coming like, what is this, false. All right. This is, so you can see true, true, false, false, and false, false. Why? Okay. This is Scala there. Still the wrong. And let's just make a copy of it then. Yeah, fine. So these are the things. So for just confirming any identity, you can see that if we use these operators, we'll be getting the identities. So these are the methods. Exactly what you are doing. Just you have a this kind of a variable. You have some values there. You have another variable. You have another values there. So another language is my initial language I have assigned. So my initial language and another language would be the same memory location, right? So these are the things. Moving on, let's say a very basic question now. This is a very basic. Now you all should answer this one. That is, how to, or how would you check if each word in a string begins with a capital letter? So how would you check that each word is each word in the string begins with a capital letter? Now this is the question number 2. Answers? Yes. Each word in the string is a capital. We have to check. We did it today, right? Okay. So, and this question was asked by the sir yesterday. So I think you might remember, everyone. What is the method?
So you can do it by using split function.
Split. We'll be using what my question is. Try to understand. So these are the things. How would you check if each word in a string begins with a capital letter? You have to check is upper, is title is the correct one. Is title. It's not. Is upper will not be the correct. Is title will be the correct. Upper will be checking for every. It will upper will be checking. See guys. That's the problem. Upper will be checking for that every character of a string, every word of a string is every character is kind of an upper. So let's take an input. Let's just take that, not taking an input from there, just taking in the kind of a, let's say, language. Just take Python language and its title. So what did it return? Is it title? It is not title. False. Let it be one title there, or let it be as a kind of, this is not title, right? If we write Python language is title, now this will give you a what in the case of upper will happen, it will check whether all the things are in the uppercase or not, right? So that is the problem. So when you run this, you'll be getting some false and the true values. So if you want to check for the how would you check for the strings having a thing? So that is the is title, sorry, not OS, is title. Capitalization. Okay, and that is a good one, right? So my next question now. So now my next question is that check if the strings contains a specific substring. So see, this stuff if I write it as 3 dot. So what does this mean? That you will be checking that whether there is a substring in a string or not. That is just a kind, you will be just you can say confused, right? So the question is asking check if the string contains a specific substring. Try to understand the question. It is saying that whether check the presence of any string in a particular string. That is the question, right? So try to understand. It is saying to check the presence of a string inside a string. Again confused? Alright. Let's take it as I am having Python language, or let's take this I am having a sentence. Let it be a sentence. So this is a sentence, right? Let's take off that this is a sentence and I want to check a string within this. Okay, so what I'll do is I want to check a specific substring inside this. So I can just write on that print this in sen. That's all, right? I need to check whether this string lies this in this string or not. This substring lies in this string or not, right? So this will give me a true result. So that is the method you can use this one. Okay. So if this kind of questions raise in front of you, what will you using the in operator? Okay, will return true. So this is you will be getting on. So the in operator will return a string contains, if a string contains a substring. Alright, understood. So if you run this, so you'll be getting a true result there. So that states that this is a kind of a substring, right? So these are the things. So this is a kind of just a complex situation you'll be occurring, that what is where to see the substrings on which kind of thing. So these are the things. You just make your own string and then check for that. This is a kind bit of complication, right, Venkat? Okay, is it this is correct? Str of 0 is upper, but this is a kind of a complication you will be having on. Okay, so let's do the next one.
I'm also thinking
Yes, sir.
find find string.
5 string.
I mean find string. FIND.
FIND. Yes. Find will give you all the index position of that. Find if you just use this kind of a find there. One second. If you use this like send dot find.
Many places we are using find and replace.
Huh? Sorry.
Many of the places documents we will be using find and replace like that.
So yeah, okay. For those finders, if I just did like those find is, so this will be giving me the index position of those things. Okay. And that is in the kind of it is 0, 1, and 2. So this is kind of this I. So I is having in the second position, that is 0, 1, and 2. So I am getting the is find as 2. It is only the first position of the value. So if we want to find those things, so we'll be using where is the index exactly. So where is the index of that particular thing? So it's particularly in the second one, it says, or we can just count on and then we can just find out the words. So that can be done using the libraries. So that can be done. There are a lot of libraries to see, like for the NumPy and all these. There will be able to just find out the things. And there are also some methods I will be discussing in these questions. Okay. So check that if a string has been over. Let's see for the next one. Find the index. Now try to understand that is asking the find the index of the first occurred of a substring in a string. Okay. So find the index of the first occurred of a substring in a string. So that is again a good one. Okay. So here we'll be using these methods of the find and index. So there are two different functions that will return you the starting index. Okay. That is a find and index. So they have very slightly very different behaviors. How? That find will return you -1 if the substring is not found. Okay. So if it is found, then it's good, and if it is not, then you will be having some error. And index will show a value error to you. That is the major difference. That you will be using methods you can use are find and the index. You can use these two methods, that is find and the index. But what is the errors you will be getting if the word is not there? So in case of find, you will be getting an -1 value. But in case of a index, you will be getting a value error if the word is not present and you are finding for those. So these are the difference. Okay, so these are the errors that will be returning to you. Now let's say that we have having a sentence, right? So just let's say we just want to print that that. Let's just take. Okay, so I just want to see that if I just want just write it as send.find first, and I find that, and similarly I will find send.find a. Okay, so these are the find methods I will be having. So you will be seeing that in the find method you will be having some errors. Okay, similarly we'll use the index method now. So in the index I'll be writing it as send.index of, so this will be giving the index of d. Let's say cool. Let it be this, and let this be cool. In the send.index, let's say again I want this. Similarly for this one, but here the index would be cool, right, for these things. So what will the outcome I will be getting on? So you can see the outcome as, okay, this is in the last one, right? So you can see the outcomes that this gives you a value error. Okay, you should know always. So in the send.find this, what is this? That is your t index value. Then that is exactly the 0. So okay, so my word is having t, that is index 0. That's clear, very good. And the index of cool. Now cool is not there in the whole sentence. So what I said, that if there is no such substring the particular string, you will be in the find method you will be having a value of -1. Okay, exactly, you got -1. And in the index method, when I find the index and when they just see the index of this, it is 0, right? When the index of cool, so cool is not in the even present here, so you'll be getting a value error, that is the substrings not found. Okay, so these are the things. Now let's make it as a kind of a alright, so I'm not printing this one. Just make it save. So this will give you a value error. Understood, guys? Similarly, a very simple question would be kind of that, count the total number of characters in a string. Let's say a user has given you something and you need to count the total number of characters there in the string. What is the process? This answers. Now this you can't give, right? Answer. Yes, I need to see the answers there now. Answer the total number of characters in the string.
Length of the total string?
Yes, correct. Length. So the len will give you, let's say I want to just so I'm getting that length of total string as
Sir,
yes.
can we use count?
1 second. Sorry, count.
Yeah.
Where?
Instead of len,
So
we will be using
count.
the particularly count.
So count will be used to just find out a particular word or a character. Okay. So
Yeah, okay, sir.
like you just used like length of, let's say you just use total strings dot count, and there might be you using as kind of, let's say, st. So you're counting, so st is not there, right? So if you count for capital St, still you will be getting the results that there is some
Okay.
kind of capital St is as fine. One.
Okay, sir.
Okay, this is the count we're working on. So if you write as strings, so you'll be getting it one. These are fine. Alright. For moving next. So now the next question could be, okay, these are the string questions. Similarly, we'll having a good interaction session for all the methods of all these things, right? Similarly, let's say that we have another question. So we'll discuss approx 20 questions today and 20 questions tomorrow, and might give you some homework. And then Monday you will be having a test. Tomorrow is a holiday. Okay, so tomorrow is just practice everything we read till now. The Monday we'll have a small test of that. So count the number of specific character in a string. Yes. The question comes now. The specific characters in a string. What is the method? Yes, method. I have written it. So count there. That is, we have it. Let's just move this one down. Let's know it. Okay, moving ahead. Alright. So let's do the next question. These are the very easy questions I'm seeing now here. That is why these questions didn't came to me while practicing. So capitalize the first character of the string. So capitalize the first character of a string. Method is the method used is itself the capitalize. Alright, so just let's take at any word, let's take its capitalize it. I'll be giving a capitalizer. Alright, so this is okay. Now sometimes you will be getting some kind of questions like let's say this is 8. Sometimes you will be getting this kind of a what is a f string and how do use it. So what is an f string and how do you use it? So like in Python 3.6 and above from that, f strings make string interpolation. If I let me write it there. That is that your f string makes string interpolations. It is nothing but you have used it, right? So this was said in the Python 3.6 version. Now it's 3.8. So using if strings is similar to the use of the format, right? So this is very similar to the f string is very similar to the format, and there is f string. If you write it as so, we'll write that the f strings for the opening quote. So the f strings are denoted by the f, particularly before the opening quote. All right. So how these are now? Let me write a sentence for you. Let's say name is there. Why it is? Let's just take that a name is here. Let it be any name. Let it be Alex. All right. And let's say his age is there. Let's say his let's take his age, and let's say his age is there, and let it be 26. Okay. Now the f, how will the f work is you write f and then you write hello, my name is name, right, and I am age years old. That's all done. Understood? So this is how it works. So if you run this, it will look like hello, my name is Alex and I am 26 years old. So this is your f string exactly. Understood? So this is kind of f string. It's a kind of an interpolation, nothing else. Okay. So you will be getting it right. So these are of your format method. Similarly, what we use in the format, instead of using format, just use f and just to go on with these things. Alright. So these are some of the methods, guys. So moving to the next question. Now let's say so for searching a specific part of a string for a substring, what the method I will be using now? Searching a specific part of a string for a substring. So there you can use the index one, right? So right, the method is the method I am using is index method, right? How? Let's just take it as the happiest person in the whole, not whole written world. Okay, just writing as a kind of that. and I need to now get to find the index, and see what I'm doing is, okay. So this returned 23. Right. I just put on the parameters, right? I just put on the parameters to just work on. So if you see index, what is it? Right, that is one. So the should come inside the 0 or kind of that, right? In place of these 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Now this 23. 23. Alright, this T is in 23. Now why this T 23? What are these 10s and what are these 44? Yes? Any guesses?
After 10th index, 10th position, it's starting from 10.
Starting from 10. Okay.
We are finding B index.
Alright. So
In the entire sentence, starting from 10th index, where is the B index is there? That is in the 23rd. Next occurrence is at 23rd occurrence. It is ignoring the first occurrence.
So exactly. So we'll write that this is this gives you an optional start and an end. And this is what you are writing there, 10 and 44, and it search with the largest string there for that. Okay. So whatever you have written there, right? So that is kind of you have used the you can say the start and the end. So using the start and the end to find out that value. Okay. Now, if I write it as the same thing, if I write it as, and if only I write it like this, without giving any parameters, so I'll be getting it as 0, right? That is the very easy thing. So this is the specific part. If you want, you can give your values to just come on. If you write it as 20, you'll have the values to be, let's say, 14. So you will have substring not found if you give it such kind of things. Let's take it from 5 to 10. So again, the substring will not be found up there, right? If you write from the 0 to 1, so again the substring is not found. So these are just you just need to give an exact value in case of you are checking for that. So that is right. Moving ahead. So the next question there is, the 10th. So it's again the question with the same of x string. So it's saying to interpolate a variable into a string using format method. That's again easy, guys, right? So you are interpolating a variable using the format method, right? So method again, method is very easy. Now you know what is the method I will be using there. It is let's do some fast now. All right. So we'll be using the format method. Now let's say I have a difficulty. I just have a difficulty variable which is having a value that is the difficulty is easy there, right? And the thing I'm talking about is the exam, right? I'm printing that was difficult, right? So the thing was difficulty. So the exam That exam was easy. Easy, right? Understood. So these are the things I'm just saying. Okay, remove this one there from there. That exam was easy. So that you can write it at the end of that. Right. Now again, I asked that questions might come as check if a string contains only the numbers. Again, I'm saying what are the methods I'll be looking on. So the methods I'll be looking on is numeric. Alright, so this is the method I'll be looking on, that is numeric. So let's take a value, let's say 12122020 and is numeric. So that will probably return you true. If I write 1.04569 or something like that, is again numeric. So that is a false one. That is not exactly there, because there is a punctuation mark of that. Like punctuations we have discussed. What are these? So there is a punctuation, which is not a numeric. So now there is a term to split a string on specific characters. So split down a string on some specific characters. What the method? Split, right? Let's take this is a grade, or let's say this is great. So this is great. Dot split, right? And also not so great split. So you can see, let me write it as one by one. So you can see the values that this is great. If I split it with the gaps, so this is and great has been split into some of the kinds in a list, right? And not so great split it by the hyphens, so you can see not so great has been split it. Okay, these are just the common things you can get it off. Now let's check if a string is composed of all the lowercase letters. Check that if a string is composed of all the lower letters. So in this case, what is the method I'll be using? Yes, guys, speak out now. You should be familiar. Is lower, correct. So let's say all lowercase is lower. That's all. So this is a kind of a true. Okay. So this is all lowercase. Yes. Now if question says like check if the first character a string is lowercase. Right. So what you'll do? The method. Yes, method. Is lower and what else? Indexing, right? So it will be using the indexing and the is lower one. That if the first character of a string is a lowercase. So let's take first character is lower. If I run this, what happens? Let's say it's false, and that exactly it's false. So how you will check is lower will check that whether everything is lower or not. Oh, right. So what to do? The first character is lower. No, still it's not lower. So you can get the first character is lower, right? This is the methods. Let's say it's still the first character is the lower one. Understood? So this is the kind of indexing you can say. Now can be an integer be added to a string? The question could be like, basic questions these are. Can an integer be added to a string? Yes, answers. Answer guys. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Conditions.
Yes. So first of all, we want to convert that integer into string.
Good. So conditions are that only if the integer is converted into str. Okay, so the conditions only if the integer is converted into str. Otherwise, if I just write it as a string and this I add up with an integer, that will just give me a we'll study the errors also. So if we just go on with this, we'll be getting a type error. Alright, so if we write this as so, we'll be getting a type error. So not executing this one line, just move ahead. Moving to the next question. It's the time. I have 9 minutes and we have 5 to complete on. Well, done. So it is now said to reverse the string. Okay, so let's reverse the string. So here the method we'll be using is the reversed and the join. So what are these things? I'll let you know. Don't worry. Okay, so reverse a string. Let's say a string is there. Let's say that's a kind of a string. Okay, I need to just reverse this one. So if I just write it as a kind of reversed of a string, so that will not be just printed on. Okay, so if I write it as join, so we're getting a reverse one. So we'll be going at what exactly your join does. So basically what you go, there is a string now, a blank string, and we want to join this value there particularly. And what value I want to join? A reverse of this one. That is a string, right? Okay. So let's say you have a string str and you want to join it. That's all. Waiting string. So first istring. What you're getting, one second. Let me give you a good one. Let's say you have a and you need to join b. So that would be if I write it as, so that would be b, a, and then let's say you have empty ba. So this is, you can see this is what the join does particularly. So this will just keep on joining the things you want to just for a standard definition, you can say that this joins the elements of an iterable to end of the string. That's all, right? So let's take, you have a string, so this will join this to the end of the string. That is the string, right? And then first it will be, and then the a. Okay, the first will be there, and if you write only the a, so this will not be written. So if you write ab, that is a will be in the first one, and then so we prefer to take as a empty string and then to join these things, right? Moving ahead. Now the next question is that I want to join the list of string into a single string delimited by hyphens. Okay, so the method I'll be using is again the join. The question seems to be like most of the time many questions seems to be like very hard and so on, but it's not exactly this hard. It's just the meaning you have been changed on. See, just again an empty string you have, and you want to join. It has asked just a kind of a it says that join the list of strings into a single string. So this is my single string, and I'm joining a list of the strings. So let it be x, y, and z. That's all. So we'll be getting x, y, z. That's it. Okay. So the question, what I'm saying, is to be a very lengthy question. Right? And the answer you will be getting, like, you get just a minute answer. Similarly, just do more 3 questions. What are it's 10 there? 4 minutes left. Check if the characters in a string conform to ASCII value.
In the question number 17, delimited by hyphens. Delimited by hyphens. Hyphen will be coming in the output or not?
Hyphens. Yes. Delimited by hyphens. Yes, the hyphens. Yes, where is the hyphens coming there? Sorry, I didn't just give the hyphen there, so this will be coming there. So one by one will be adding up by the hyphens. Okay. So check if the characters in a string conform to the your ASCII codes. So there, I'll be using a method which says to be is ASCII. All right. So that is just print a is ASCII. see. So that is true, you will be getting some value over there. So if I write anything which does not have any ASCII values, so this is not having any ASCII values, right? Okay, moving ahead. 2 minutes left. 2 questions to do. See, so to convert anything in the uppercase, and or to just find out the uppercase first and last character of a string, right? So the methods I'll be using here is upper. Alright, so that could be, let's take is then there is an animal, let name it as panda, right? And then what you can do is you can just find out the first element of the and make it as an upper, and then you can just write for the animal, and that is your give the ranging. And that is a proper index question. So we're getting only the first and the last one as a capital. Now it's 11, I think. 1 minute. Check if all are in uppercase. Method I'll be using there is upper. Let's take cow is upper. 11. Completed the 20. Alright. So yep, done with all these questions. This is C. I also just fight with the time. Okay, that's 11, and I also just do my things particularly in the time. So that is why the time is important. Okay, try to just fight with the time. See, this question asked you to just give you the uppercase first. That is exactly the uppercase, and the last character of a string is only the first. Okay, there is some spelling errors. Okay, that is the uppercase and the last character only to be the it says to be the upper as the first and the last character only in the uppercase of the string. That is, although I will be using the upper one. So what I did is I took just a word called as animal, which is having a value of panda, and I did it that the animal, okay, the animal of 0 dot upper, that is your this one dot upper, plus animal of 1 to minus 1, that is from 1 to minus 1, this, right? So from that is left with everything. You can just more to all another kind of indexing also. That is, you can take just from 1 to animal of 0, and then you can just make it on right kind. You can write from the 1 to the minus 1. That is your minus none will not be there. It is from 1 to minus 2 will be there. That is all right. And then you will giving the animal of minus 1 dot upper. That is your last one will be upper. So these are the methods. And how to check that? How check if all characters in a string are in uppercase. Okay, how to check that? That is just the upper method. So I hope guys this 20 is well good to with you, right? So